Have you ever thought that the moment your life falls apart could be the very moment it finally starts to make sense? What happens when a life-threatening shock hits you, but you manage to witness it as an outsider? In this episode, Gurdjieff shares his near-death experience in which he witnessed something significant. So, listen till the end. And if this story makes sense to you, don't forget to join our community by subscribing to this channel. Now presenting Gurdjieff's near-death experience from his own perspective. The road from the capital stretched before me like a ribbon of destiny that July evening, the headlamps of my automobile cutting through darkness as I pressed the accelerator with the same intensity I applied to everything in my existence. I had driven this route countless times, weaving between slower vehicles with the confidence of someone who believed himself beyond ordinary limitations. I carried within me the exhaustion of months spent performing demonstrations in distant lands, raising funds to sustain the work, pushing my physical organism beyond what any reasonable person would consider possible. Sleep had become a luxury I could rarely afford, yet I continued driving through the night with the same reckless determination that had carried me through decades of searching. Some invisible part of me knew something was approaching, though I could not name what form it would take. While steering my Citroën, something shifted in my awareness, like a curtain being drawn across consciousness. The exhaustion I had been holding at bay through sheer force of will suddenly overwhelmed my capacity to resist. My eyelids grew heavy as iron gates, and in the space between one heartbeat and the next, I crossed the threshold from waking into sleep while my hands still gripped the steering wheel. The impact arrived like thunder, splitting the fabric of reality itself, and metal crushing against wood with a violence that separated my body from the vehicle and hurled it into darkness. Time became strange in that moment, simultaneously compressed into a single point and stretched across eternity. I felt myself flying through the air, weightless and strangely peaceful. Then came the second impact, the body meeting Earth with a force that should have ended consciousness entirely. Yet I remained awake, observing the situation with a peculiar detachment that I had spent years trying to cultivate in my students. Here was the objective observation I had been teaching, the ability to witness oneself from outside, to see one's own suffering and physical trauma as if it belonged to someone else. Pain arrived in waves, each bringing its own particular quality of sensation. The head throbbed with an intensity that made thinking feel impossible. Yet I was thinking. Something wet and warm ran down my face. Blood, I understood distantly, though the observation carried no emotional charge. My ribs screamed their protest against the expansion of lungs desperate for air. The left leg had bent in a direction nature never intended. I lay on the ground beside the ruined machine, staring up at stars that seemed closer than they had ever appeared before. While my body lay broken on the road, another part of me, the eternal witness that exists beyond physical form, examined the situation with profound curiosity about what would unfold next. Was this truly an accident, or was it the universe's way of forcing a necessary transformation? Had some deeper part of myself orchestrated this collision? The teaching center had become a burden as much as a blessing, demanding constant attention and resources that drained my capacity to focus on the essential transmission of knowledge. Perhaps this moment of violent interruption was actually cosmic mercy, an intervention that recognized what I had been refusing to see. The work must change form if it was to survive. When they lifted me onto the stretcher and carried me toward their hospital, I murmured through swollen lips, "Many people, many people. The physicians wanted to keep me in their clinical environment, measuring and medicating the damage while remaining completely ignorant of the transformation occurring on levels they had no instruments to detect. I insisted on returning to the teaching center, where students who understood something beyond ordinary medicine could tend what was actually wounded. The journey home felt endless, each bump in the road sending fresh waves of agony through the damaged nervous system. Yet I remained conscious, refusing the mercy of unconsciousness. There was something essential about staying present to this experience, about witnessing every moment of the dissolution of what had been, so that something new could emerge from the ruins. My body fought to repair damage that doctors had declared impossible to survive. During this period of forced stillness, the real transformation began. I could no longer teach through movement and demonstration, and could barely speak above a whisper. Everything I had built, every method I had developed, every assumption about how the work should be transmitted, all of it dissolved like salt in water, leaving behind only the essential substance. Fire became my companion during these months of recovery. I ordered great bonfires lit in the grounds, watching flames consume wood with the same voracity that this experience was consuming my old identity. Something in the dancing light spoke a truth deeper than words, the principle that transformation requires destruction. While still too weak to hold a pen, I began to dictate a story that had been waiting years to be told. Tales of a cosmic traveler sharing wisdom with his grandson during a journey through the universe. Writing became my new teaching method, slower and more deliberate than the previous approach, yet potentially reaching far beyond the limited number who could physically attend my institute. I understood during those months of painful composition that the accident had forced me to abandon the phase of work that depended on my physical presence and begin the phase that would survive my physical death. The collision with the tree had been a collision with mortality itself. It was the recognition that this body would not last forever, that the transmission must take forms that could outlive the teacher's limited span of years. The students I had dismissed, the institute I had formally disbanded, the demonstrations I would never again perform, all of these were necessary sacrifices to create space for the work that consciousness was demanding. Just as a caterpillar must dissolve completely within its cocoon before wings can form, my previous identity had to be destroyed before the writer could emerge. My life truly began when it shattered, because the shattering revealed what had always been present beneath the surface of conventional identity. The accident stripped away everything external and temporary, leaving only the essential task that consciousness had assigned to this particular human organism. That dark road holds a secret that changes everything. Sometimes the universe must destroy what we have built so that we can discover what we were actually meant to create.